Welcome back to the Smart Garden channel, where we're always exploring clever ways to grow more with less effort. Today, we're diving deep into one of gardening's most revolutionary techniques, lasagna gardening. If you've been struggling with poor soil, weeds that never quit, or simply want a more sustainable approach to growing your own food, this method might just transform your gardening experience forever. Lasagna gardening, also known as sheet composting or sheet mulching, mimics nature's own soil building process. This no-till approach not only saves your back from the strain of digging but also preserves the complex soil ecosystem that conventional tilling disrupts. Before we get our hands dirty, let's understand what makes lasagna gardening so effective. This method works because it harnesses the natural decomposition process in a controlled, accelerated way. When organic materials break down, they release nutrients that feed your plants while simultaneously improving soil structure. The beauty of this system lies in its ability to transform even the most challenging sites into productive growing spaces. Success with lasagna gardening begins with collecting the right materials, and plenty of them. For browns, save your cardboard, newspaper, dead leaves, straw, wood chips, and shredded paper. For greens, collect grass clippings, vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, fresh plant trimmings, and manure from herbivores like horses, cows, or chickens. Just remember to avoid dog and cat waste, as these can contain harmful pathogens. The quantity of materials needed often surprises first-timers. For a standard 4x8 foot bed, you'll want at least 10 to 15 large cardboard boxes, 3 to 4 bags of leaves, several wheelbarrows of compost, and additional organic matter to reach your desired height. I recommend stockpiling materials throughout the year. Your neighbor's autumn leaf bags and local coffee shop's grounds can become valuable resources for your garden. While you can start a lasagna garden any time of year, timing can affect how quickly your garden becomes plant-ready. Fall is ideal for building your beds, as this gives the materials all winter to break down, resulting in a planting-ready bed by spring. The winter freeze-thaw cycles help accelerate decomposition, and spring rains will further activate the biological processes that transform your layers into living soil. Additionally, fall provides an abundance of leaves and garden cleanup materials that make perfect additions to your layers. If you're reading this in spring or summer and feeling impatient, don't worry. You can still create a lasagna garden and even plant it immediately with a few modifications. For spring and summer builds, use more finished compost in your layers and create planting pockets filled with compost where you'll place your plants. This gives them somewhere hospitable to grow while the rest of the bed continues breaking down around them. Summer-built beds benefit from keeping the top layer well mulched to retain moisture during hot weather, as the decomposition process requires consistent moisture to continue effectively. Choosing the right location for your lasagna garden affects everything from plant growth to maintenance requirements. Like any garden, most plants in your lasagna beds will thrive with at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. Consider access to water, proximity to your kitchen for herb and vegetable beds, and how the garden fits into your overall landscape design. Once you've selected your site, minimal preparation is required. There's no need to remove grass or weeds. In fact, those existing plants will decompose and add nutrients to your bed. Now for the fun part, actually building your bed. Start by defining your garden's shape using a hose, rope, or spray paint. Rectangular beds about 4 feet wide allow easy access from both sides without stepping on your growing area. Remove any large rocks or debris from the site, then thoroughly wet the ground to help jumpstart decomposition of the existing vegetation. Your first layer should be cardboard or several layers of newspaper. If you're using newspaper, aim for at least 10 to 12 sheets thick. Make sure to remove any tape, labels, or glossy advertisements from the cardboard, as these won't break down properly. Overlap the edges by at least 6 to 8 inches to prevent weeds from finding gaps. Once laid, thoroughly wet this cardboard layer until it's completely saturated. This helps it conform to the ground and begins the decomposition process. Next comes your first green layer, nitrogen-rich materials about 2 to 3 inches thick. This could be fresh grass clippings, vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, or manure. Following that, add a brown layer of carbon-rich materials like leaves, straw, or shredded paper about 4 to 6 inches thick. Continue alternating green and brown layers, making the brown layers roughly twice as thick as the green layers to maintain the proper carbon-nitrogen ratio for effective composting. Water each layer thoroughly as you build. For the final layers, add 2 to 3 inches of compost, followed by 2 to 3 inches of mulch, such as straw leaves or wood chips on top. This finished compost layer ensures that even if the lower layers haven't fully decomposed, you'll have a hospitable environment for immediate planting. The top mulch layer protects your bed from drying out and suppresses any weeds that might try to establish. How soon you can plant depends on the state of your materials and when you built your bed. A fall-built bed will be ready for planting by spring as the materials will have had months to break down. For newly built beds, you have two options. Wait 4 to 8 weeks for initial decomposition or create planting pockets for immediate planting. To create planting pockets, simply push aside the top layers until you reach the partially decomposed middle layers, then fill the pocket with finished compost. Plant directly into this compost, and as your plants grow, their roots will gradually extend into the surrounding decomposing materials. For direct seeding, you'll either need to wait until your bed has decomposed more or create a 2-inch layer of finished compost on top for seed starting. Plant selection for lasagna gardens can be quite diverse. These beds excel at growing vegetables, herbs, flowers, and even small fruits like strawberries. The loose, rich soil is particularly good for root crops like carrots and potatoes, which appreciate the friable growing medium. Because lasagna gardens tend to retain moisture well, you may need to be cautious with plants that require exceptional drainage, though incorporating more browns like leaves and straw can create a better environment for these plants. One of the joys of lasagna gardening is its relatively low maintenance requirements. Because the layers suppress weeds effectively, you'll spend less time weeding than in conventional gardens. The organic matter also holds moisture efficiently, reducing watering needs. However, during the first season, monitor moisture levels carefully. The high organic content can sometimes dry out more quickly than expected until it fully integrates with the soil below. Fertilizing is rarely necessary in the first year or two, as the decomposing materials release abundant nutrients. However, heavy feeders like tomatoes and corn might benefit from occasional liquid fertilizer applications. As your garden grows and the seasons pass, the original layers will break down and the bed will settle. Rather than tilling or turning the soil, which would disrupt the living soil web you've created, simply add new layers on top each year. A 2 to 3 inch layer of compost in spring, followed by a fresh layer of mulch, is usually sufficient to replenish nutrients and maintain soil health. Fall is another excellent time to add materials, utilizing fallen leaves and garden cleanup debris to build up your beds again. Even with this relatively foolproof method, challenges can arise. If your layers aren't decomposing as expected, insufficient moisture is often the culprit. Ensure your bed stays consistently moist but not soggy during the breakdown period. If you notice the bed heating up significantly or developing an ammonia smell, you've likely added too many green materials relative to browns. Simply add more brown materials like leaves or straw to restore balance. Another common issue is material shrinkage, where your beautiful tall bed compacts down significantly. This is completely normal and actually indicates successful decomposition. Simply add new layers each season to maintain your desired bed height. If plants show poor growth despite your carefully built bed, consider testing your soil pH, as some materials like pine needles or oak leaves can make the soil more acidic than some plants prefer. Occasionally, gardeners report problems with pests like slugs, which can be attracted to the moist environment. Incorporating diatomaceous earth into your top layer can help deter these pests without harming the beneficial organisms in your soil. If you're finding that rodents are nesting in your beds, particularly in winter, adding a layer of hardware cloth at the base of your bed during construction can prevent this issue. As you gain experience with lasagna gardening, you'll likely want to expand or modify your approach. Many gardeners eventually convert their entire growing areas to this method, creating a series of beds connected by mulched pathways. Consider incorporating permanent elements like trellises, hoop supports, or irrigation systems into your design as your garden evolves. Experienced lasagna gardeners often customize their layers based on what they're growing. For example, adding extra wood chips or pine needles to beds intended for acid-loving plants like blueberries, or incorporating more manure and compost in beds designated for heavy feeders like tomatoes and squash. You might also experiment with sheet mulching around established perennials or trees, gradually expanding the lasagna layers outward from the drip line to improve soil without disturbing existing root systems. For those interested in maximum sustainability, your lasagna garden can become part of a closed-loop system where garden waste becomes the building material for new beds or layers. Chop-and-drop pruning, where plant trimmings are cut and left in place as mulch, works particularly well with the lasagna method. Lasagna gardening represents more than just a convenient way to start a new bed, it's a philosophy that aligns with nature's own processes. By layering organic materials and allowing them to decompose in place, you're creating a self-sustaining ecosystem that improves over time. The benefits extend beyond your plants to the environment as a whole. Reduced waste through composting, carbon sequestration in your soil, increased biodiversity in your garden, and conservation of water resources. As your lasagna garden matures, you'll notice changes not just in your plants, but in the soil itself. What might have started as compacted clay or lifeless sand gradually transforms into rich dark earth teeming with earthworms and beneficial microorganisms. This living soil creates healthier plants with better resistance to pests and diseases, reducing the need for interventions and creating a more resilient garden overall. I hope this guide has inspired you to try lasagna gardening in your own space, whether that's a single experimental bed or a complete garden transformation. Remember that every layer you add is a step toward more sustainable, productive, and joyful gardening. Share this video with fellow gardeners who might benefit from this approach, and let us know in the comments about your own experiences with sheet mulching and lasagna gardening. Until next time, happy gardening!